the beginning of the game, I was stressing. I was telling my wife, like, I don't think I could watch. And then runners on first and second, nobody out. Yeah. Look, you start worrying about, man, we might blow this thing. We had a 3-1 lead last year against LA. And you start thinking about the worst, you know? So I was stressing at the beginning. I didn't even know if I could watch. I was like, so I switched to the Leaf game. The Canadians were on. TNT had an NBA game on. I was just trying to do something.
You did not watch the Leafs game? Wait a second.
Oh, hey, trust me, man. I was trying to take my mind off it. I'm not kidding. They win 4-0, 5-0.
Yeah, 4-0. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, they were killing them.
Alex is one of the brightest and most respected young executives in baseball.
You know, crazy story for me. I was working for my father's heating and ventilation company. Big baseball fan growing up. Father passed away when I was 20. I decided with my 2 brothers to get involved in that and did it for about 2 years. Woke up one morning at 23 and decided I don't want to do this for the remainder of my life. And I want to do something I love. I love baseball, I love sports. So I started banging on doors and got an internship with the Expos. You know, did stuff, you know, mail, then I did media relations. The big thing was I used that as a vehicle to pursue the passion, which was scouting and evaluating, and we had games at night. I did that during the day, so on the weekends, yeah, and the rest evolved. I never viewed it as work, and I know people say that if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, but I couldn't wait to get to the ballpark. I didn't want to leave. I was a sponge. Passion is drive. It's the most important thing. And even when young individuals come and ask me how to get into sports, that's the one thing I ask them. How badly do you want it? You know, it's a grind, and there's no money. The hours are long. You better love it. You better have that drive, the passion. And I tell my kids now, find something you love. Have that drive, have the passion for it. You're gonna go incredibly far, and I'll say that probably till the day I die. I view this as one of the premier jobs in all of sports. With the young talent that we have here, some dynamic young players, there's no question that certainly expect big things going forward.
Welcome everybody to Bourbon Street. I'm MH3 for number 5 and kind of sort of posting the show on my own, although I have a 10-minute cameo from my pal Eric to talk all things MLB. But let's just take a look at that video for a second, and I'm sure all the Blue Jays fans watching, that's kind of a stab in the heart, a twist to the gut, you know, a smack over the head, that Alex Anthopoulos is the first ever Canadian GM to win the World Series. It's not with the Blue Jays. You have to admire him for following his passion, totally understanding what he wants to do with his life. But, you know, as I was watching that video, and I'm old, I had to be harkened back to like 92 when we won our series against the Braves. A lot of connections between the Blue Jays and the Atlanta Braves. Kudos to Alex. Amazing story, and really great example of putting perseverance, putting your effort in, putting your time in. But gotta tell you, sitting in my seats, 20 rows behind home plate, would have liked to have seen it down at the Rogers Center. Okay, so it's been a big year in sports. It's great to have fans back in the stands. Certainly made the World Series exciting. I know they kind of had fans last year in their neutral site World Series. All the playoffs were amazing. So let's have a little wrap up on Major League Baseball 2021. And then I'm going to have Eric join me to talk about his top 10 MLB stories.
It is a beautiful thing to see these people here in the crowd.
The fans, everybody appreciates it. Absolutely unbelievable. That'll do it. Walk it off. Yes, sir.
Umpires are finally going to be empowered to enforce the rules on the books. Every pitcher will be checked in every game.
Guerrero will crush this one to the opposite field, and that one is gone. Number 46 for Vladdy.
Fernando homers again.
The Medios left the building.
Shohei Ohtani, the superhero, does it again.
Ohtani, a bullet, and gone. Shohei, way, sayonara. Anderson hits it in the air to right. Back at the wall, and the White Sox win it. Thousand hits. Sox win the division. The Rays have gone back-to-back as AL East division champs. to postseason berth in 2021. And a big hearty congratulations.
Hey, Eric, always great to have you on this side of the camera. Everybody
Definitely.
should know that most weeks Eric's on the other side of the camera with about 5 screens going, 7 keyboards, and I think he's always got a big bottle of Tums when I throw a last-minute curveball, baseball pun intended,
Yep.
at him.
Great to be here. I didn't put Sergio Romo pulling down his pants in my top 10. I forgot about that one. That was quite a moment. A lot of exciting things this year.
That was a great move. So I asked you to come on this week. You know more about baseball than I do about football. I want you to walk us through Eric's top 10 MLB moments from 2021.
So this is, I wouldn't say biased, but this is my perspective. So not everyone might agree. And I tried not to make it too Blue Jay centric. Actually, I didn't at all. I probably went the other way, avoided the Blue Jays. But a couple of things, I would start off number 10. I'll say it. Every sports fan has one team in sports they hate the most. And for me, it's the Boston Red Sox. And I am so jealous that for 3 times in the last decade, they've gone from last place one year to the playoffs the next. That makes no sense to me. You know, teams finish in last and they think, I'll have this 5-year plan down the road. But
Right.
they find a way. And it happened again. I know it was a 60-game schedule last year, so it doesn't really count. But they were last place last year. And they were in first for much of this year, snuck in the wild card. But it's something they do continually. So I don't know if it's something that maybe they play higher than their actual talent, or that I think it's more likely they play lower that year they finish last, where everything goes wrong. But it's quite something to watch, and it's frustrating as a Blue Jays fan because we always have our 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year plans, and they can do it in 1 year.
Those are long-term plans. I think there's a lot of Toronto fans that are aligned with you. Like Blue Jays fans don't like the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
These fans don't like the Bruins for good reason.
Yep.
I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't like the Patriots, but I hear you. So I feel your pain.
For sure. On to the next second. Montreal and Tampa. So this was something that came up more at the end of the year with the ownership in Tampa talking about seeking plans to split between Montreal and Toronto. Again, I dislike most Montreal teams, but the one team I've always liked was the Montreal Expos. I have a hat, I have a jersey. I felt like we were in it together against the rest of Major League Baseball. It's a Canadian thing. When it comes to Tampa, I don't have anything as far as how they did on the field, which is a whole story itself. They did amazing this year when no one expected it as well. But when it comes to Tampa's future, I really don't see how they have a future. They've had so many opportunities to have a new stadium. That keeps falling through. I truly believe I would love if Tampa went to Montreal. This plan, I think it's a ploy as far as, the 50-50. It's so many logistics. What are they called? No one really knows.
Right.
The fan base is how can you really get connected on either side? It might be a ploy for maybe fully moving to Montreal. It might be a ploy just, again, for Tampa to find a way to build a stadium. I don't think the 50-50 will happen, but I would love it to be full-time Montreal and be able to go there and cheer on the Jays against Montreal in the future.
Well, I'm with you on the Montreal thing. And, here's a question for you. How many Blue Jays fans do you think actually realize that Montreal was in Major League Baseball long before Toronto?
Not many. I think you have to be a certain age or a really diehard baseball fan. But yeah, they paved the way for the Blue Jays. There definitely wouldn't be a Blue Jays likely if the Montreal Expos hadn't come through in the 60s and had a bit of that success moving up. But you're right. It's not known much. People think because we won the World Series before them, people think that we're the kings of baseball.
Right. It would be amazing to have a team back in Montreal, and obviously the strike killed their greatest team. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. It would be nice to have those 2 Canadian teams again to kind of, balance us against the rest of the world.
Yep. And just to add on, we'd likely be in the same division if this happened, which didn't happen before.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Next up, just the name change of the Cleveland baseball team. So this is something long in the making. They announced that they're going to be called the Cleveland Guardians starting next year. My question is, what is this evolution? How are the fans going to react? How's the team going to react to this, actually? Because I know in 2019, I went to Cleveland to see the Jays play. Right. They already moved on from the previous logo, the Chief Wahoo logo. It had been banned, and they used the C logo. And so I'm thinking, I don't see it anywhere in the stadium. The players aren't wearing it. I went to the gift shop. Half the gift shop still was the Chief Wahoo logo. So I was thinking, they're saying all this, but we'll see if they actually stay with it. They love their brand, which is unfortunate. But I'm very interested to see next year how people react to this, how many times people slip up, the broadcasters calling them what they are. And myself even, it'll be weird saying Guardians, but it's for the best for sure.
Okay, I got 3 follow-up questions for you, and I know I didn't plan any of these. So What do you think of the rebrand of the Elks in the CFL, Edmonton Eskimos to Elks?
I think it's better than this one. I think that one was seamless. I think that the colors work. The logo is cooler. I love the antlers on the helmet. I think that was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Very cool. Do you think the Washington football team should get a name or stay as the Washington football team?
Funny you asked that, because I have said in the past, Washington football team sounds pretty snazzy. It sounds like they are almost like the first team that ever existed, like there's a history. Yeah.
Right.
I think they should keep it. Obviously, it sort of sounds like a soccer team, but I mean, that's why they said team instead of club. I'm for keeping it as is.
Now, I'm really going to put you on the spot here. Atlanta Braves, do they need a name change? Do they need to stop the chop? I mean, they are the World Series champions, so it's fine and dandy that Cleveland's doing this, but how far do you go? Do you go to the Braves? Do you go to the Chiefs? How far do you go? Do you go to the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, that is in Boston Celtics.
Right.
The chop has to go. I was really disappointed. I sort of was going to talk about it in a future countdown item, that the commissioner said it was okay and he liked it. I was surprised by that, because the rest of certain parts in the MLB and in Canada for sure would be against that. As far as Atlanta Braves, the name has so many connotations. Maybe change the logo. I'm good with that. But moving on. Oops, I'm in front of the camera. I'm also behind the camera. 1 second.
I love it.
The San Diego Padres, they were my next thing. Complete disaster. So every year there's one team that goes wild in the free agency, and that's the team that's not going to make the playoffs. This was them this time. They had a stacked rotation. They all got injured, underachieved. Obviously, Manny Machado got into it with Fernando Tatis Jr. in the dugout. We'll see. What usually happens is that hyped-up team does terrible the 1 year and then steps up the next year. So I look for big things from them. Of course, Vlad. I think myself too, I was wondering if he was ever going to come around. Obviously his weight was a big issue. He did more than even I could even imagine this year. The guy is like 22, 23 years old. The who knows what he can do in the future, but I am legitimately caught up on him, and I think that he's going to continue doing this. And I'm very thankful for it, because guys like Fernando Tatis Jr. And Freddie Acuna Jr. Were way ahead of him when he was supposed to be right with them, so he's with it.
Hey, quick question for you. How long do we have Vlad under contract, and how hard will it be to keep him in Toronto?
I think we have at least 3 or 4 more years with him.
Amazing.
But it's going to be tough, and obviously the arbitration each year will go up and up and up. But we have the money, hopefully, over at Rogers. I know crazy things are happening over there, but hopefully they can keep spending on the team.
I love it.
Like I said before, this topic on the countdown is about the precedent that the MLB set, taking the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Constantly, there's a lot of places in the U.S., Texas, Arizona, Georgia, that are passing a lot of controversial things these days. Does that mean that these games are never going to be in those states again? I think it's interesting to watch if this is a one-off for MLB, because they could have put themselves in a hole setting a precedent. I don't think it's going to be something that they continue. Obviously, with Manfred saying okay to the chop, which sort of is he's sort of stuck with that.
It's a great point. I mean, South by Southwest has come out and said, as an event, they're not going to abandon Texas despite their opposition, say, to the abortion law. Yeah. And you know what? To your point, you might wind up in a place where there's nowhere to hold an All-Star game, maybe on Mars.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Next on the list, CBA agreements CBA happening this winter. Who gets the share of the money? How do you define revenue is a big thing coming up. I think there will be a work stoppage, which is depressing to me.
You do.
Great things are obviously happening in Toronto, and next year I'm not a super over optimist, but I say like next year is huge for the Jays, so that better not be interrupted by this. They have a deadline December 1st. Manfred said it's going to be okay. I don't trust him. Obviously, we had that whole lockout kerfuffle last year trying to come back. They delayed the season a month. I don't trust any of them. I think that there will be baseball missing in April.
Wow.
Just running through these. San Francisco Giants, no one saw this coming. A team of veterans, Evan Longoria, obviously Crawford, they were not picked to do anything. They were the best team in baseball, obviously failing in the playoffs. They were sort of an example like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay snuck in with the young players. The Giants snuck in with the veterans. But it proves, the veterans, if you've been there before, no matter what your numbers are, you come together as a team. And they surprised everybody.
That was crazy with them and the Dodgers going down to the wire.
Yeah, the Dodgers, a second place, I think 103 win team. That's wild.
Yeah.
And then number 2, just Shohei Ohtani. He's an all-star pitcher, an all-star hitter. He's going to win MVP. I think he should win MVP, even though I'm a Jays fan. Is he going to do this every year? Does that mean that he's, going to be the MVP every year?
Is it possible?
I mean, if he does this, how can you not, really?
How old is he?
I think he's south of 25, that's for sure. He's just beginning. Hopefully he doesn't have some sort of injury, but, great for him. And then number 1 for me, the trade deadline. We sort of talked to it with Anthopoulos off the top, and they did amazing things at the trade deadline. Below 500 at the trade deadline. Anthopoulos had amazing trade deadline in 2015 with the Jays, did it again with the Braves. He talked about analysis being his thing. He does it better than anybody.
Well, it's interesting when you're talking about guys like Vladdy and Ohtani, and baseball keeps mucking around with rules and trying to do this and that. I think the last thing they need is a work stoppage, because that's what's killed them. Mm-hmm. And what they need is more young stars like the people you mentioned. So thanks, Eric, for your top 10. I'll let you go back behind the scenes, and we'll see you again, hopefully, before next November.
Perfect. See you then.
So we're talking about adding pro sports back into Canada, and you think about the Montreal Expos. What about Toronto? And Drizzy came out this week with a really interesting statement about the WNBA and the Six.
Parker to tie. You bet. Dancing for the first time in franchise history. The Chicago Sky are WNBA champions.
Drake has worked his way to the forefront of Canadian basketball, and now he's making the push to bring another team to his hometown. The rapper posted this simple message on Instagram yesterday reading, "At Women's National Basketball Association, I need a Toronto team." Now, while there are no firm plans to bring a WNBA franchise to the city just yet, Drake's message surely won't hurt our chances of getting one because, of course, he has so much sway.
Pal Drake today was asking for the WNBA to expand to Toronto. Is that something you'd like to see? And what do you think it would do for basketball in the city?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I think Toronto should have a team, right? I think basketball, obviously, all of us living up there know that this is like a golden age. The number of people playing, the amount of talent pouring out of a lot of cities up there.
All of us living up there. Come on, Nick. It's called Toronto. I think this is long overdue. The WNBA has become an amazing league. It's got legacy. It's got support. Phil Cook, former Nike executive and a great Canadian, is their CMO. I think when you look at the Canadian sponsorship landscape, you look at what's going on with teams and leagues, there's a ton of money, a ton of opportunity, whether it be crypto, sports betting, other categories that are coming in. And the monetization opportunity is there. The more important thing is basketball is such an amazing sport. It's played at such a competitive level by women. And this would allow us to have that same sort of Vince Carter, Damon Stoudemire effect in my mind on the female basketball side. So absolutely think this has to happen. I know that it's been tabled before. I just look at a city like Toronto and the resources that exist here. Let's make it happen. And some other future Bourbon Street, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant as to why we don't have a WNHL, but that's a complete and other meeting. Last week, we talked about Mark Zuckerberg and the Metaverse and him trying to own it with the renaming of the parent company of Facebook to Meta. Well, Nike's now got some amazing things going on because they've just filed a whole bunch of trademarks and applications for products in the Metaverse.
Some more business news. I read that Nike is planning to enter the Metaverse so it can start selling digital sneakers. That's right. They're expensive shoes that you can't actually wear, or as they're also known, heels.
Nike is getting in on the NFT craze, filing several trademarks for virtual goods. The company is hoping to protect its mark in digital goods like NFTs or in video games like Fortnite. BK, you saw this. I mean, we all know that you can buy, you know, bell-bottom pants and vests for your avatar in a metaverse, and that those items might actually cost thousands of dollars. So why not Nike, and why not trademark that?
This to me has been the promise of NFTs from the beginning. You're going to have your normal closet and a digital closet. And eventually Nike's going to sell you a pair of digital Air Jordans that you're going to wear around the metaverse or in any game that you want, or maybe even to a virtual sporting event. You're going to be able to wear it. So you're starting to see this entire thing converge, different technologies converge, and NFTs, and Nike now saying they're going to do it, are at the heart of it. I just think it's fascinating to see this develop. This is the next growth stage for crypto, for NFTs, and frankly for Nike, because think about it, this is a whole new revenue stream for them, your digital closet.
Well, it just continues, right? We've got NFT, we've got crypto. Yesterday, we had a Sponsorship X Clubhouse featuring experts from the crypto sector. Matthew Chen is the CMO of StormX, Sar Safa from IPEX, Mark Mendes from CoinSquare, Lisa Loud from FluidFi. And what was really interesting in this conversation was just what's going on with crypto. And one of the reasons they're rushing to sports sponsorship is the desire to be not only legitimized, but to get over the gray market concerns. You probably heard about the Squid Game scandal, the false crypto Ponzi scheme that just went down. So you're seeing a lot more brands jumping into sports sponsorship as a way to legitimize, as a way to have the heroes of sport bring a halo effect. Let's have a quick look at this really funny ad from FTX, who's just dominating right now in the cryptocurrency space.
Want to do one more? Hang on, there's a possibility of a trade.
Tom Brady wants a trade. Could he be coming home?
One leg stay.
Oh my God, Brady.
Yeah, trade. We're telling everyone.
I heard she wants to be in LA.
Caller 2, go. I'm hearing Denver.
I give you the new City Hall. Take that, Tampa.
A trade? Are you sure?
Not a trade. I'm trading crypto. FTX is the safest and easiest way to buy and sell crypto. It's the best way to get in the game.
Just trading crypto.
Oh.
Hey, y'all. It's not coming. Not coming.
Now, I'm sure when they wrote that ad, they had no clue that New Orleans would be down to their third string quarterback, by the way, so pretty clever. But FTX is doing a whole bunch of things right. And I would say if you're in the business of selling sponsorship right now, start making the calls to crypto. FTX has bought a Super Bowl ad. They obviously have this partnership with Tom Brady. They're doing a really cool program at the University of Kentucky where their basketball players on the Kentucky team, now being sponsored by FTX, are actually going to get stipends on debit cards for every activation they do. They can create their own NFTs. So it's really mind-boggling to me and amazing how this is just, a year ago we saw, sports betting coming. Now we've got crypto. It's been amazing. We're going to turn things on a more somber note and head over to Last Call and have a little conversation about mental health. Lane Johnson, a highly recognized NFL player, just recently came out with his own struggles. Let's have a moment to reflect on this video from him.
This is a beast, man. And it's one of those things, it goes to bed with you, man. It wakes up with you.
There he is.
It's there all the time.
How we doing?
Until you can get a sense on how to control this, how to manage it, it'll eat you up. I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder in college. The monster kept building and building and building. It finally came to a point where I said, I'm not going to take it no more.
This is the first time anybody's seeing you publicly speak since you've come back to the Eagles. What happened that day?
The first game against Atlanta, I told my mom, I said, something's really, really wrong with me. I don't know exactly what it is. I said, I'm miserable. I know my mind isn't right. I know my body isn't right. So I left, went back home. I didn't have any communication with the Eagles.
Johnson wrote that he has secretly been battling depression and anxiety for a long time.
Trying to describe that to people that have no clue or what it's like, it's very difficult. You lose touch of your sense of self. You lose touch of what's really going on around you. And what we really tend to do is lock up, not want to say anything. I felt bad for my team, but there were signs that this wasn't something that was new, the spur of the moment. This was going on for, months. I'm glad I'm sitting here talking about it, finally being open about it. So I'm scared of judgment. I mean, you look at guys when they get done after a game, what do? First thing they do is go on Twitter, search your name. Right. And that's me. I'm talking to myself. So you find your most closest friend, family member, tell a loved one. And if it's to a degree of seriousness, there's always help around the corner. That's the thing.
I love his comments there. There's always help around the corner. And it's amazing now you're seeing pro athletes like Calvin Ridley and Lane Johnson come out and talk about this, talk about the challenges of mental health. The other day I ran into Michael Landsberg, the great TSN analyst who, has a fun charity called Sick Not Weak. He's often talked about his own battles with mental health and the need that if you're struggling to tell somebody to get out there. And I just think the image of the big, brawling offensive lineman, who looks the prototype part, the image of the athlete, the receiver like Calvin Ridley, who you think can run through any tackle, outrun anybody, but you can't outrun mental health. And I think it's just an incredibly important milestone that these guys are now brave enough to say it. I hope that the teams and the organizations are thinking this through and really understanding. The ironic thing is sport is such a mental activity. There's a very thin degree of physical difference in separation athleticism, but it really comes down to the mind. I'm a big volunteer with CAMH, and Carol Dager, who's a VP of legal at Loblaw, has come out many times and talked about her own challenges with mental health. And I think it's very inspiring to me to not only see pro athletes do this, but also see senior business professionals. So I'm going to thank you for joining me today on Bourbon Street. Thank Eric for coming on this side of the camera. And I'm going to leave you with some words from Carol.
Hi, my name is Carol Dager. I've lived with postpartum depression, and I'm currently living with treatment-resistant major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder. I was completely fine mentally, I would say, prior to giving birth. And about 5 or 6 days after having given birth, I got out of bed and immediately realized something was off. I didn't want to be with my daughter, not because I didn't love her, but because I felt incompetent as a mother. I cried all the time. I wanted to stay in my room. I didn't want to interact with anybody. I wanted my mom around to take over. I fought hard against the idea that this was a mental illness issue. I thought that I was just not suited to be a mother. I recall my first interaction at CAMH in the ER with one of the most senior psychiatrists at CAMH. And what struck me about this doctor is the humanity with which he treated me. If you know someone who's suffered from mental illness, or if you yourself have suffered from mental illness, you understand how difficult it is to live with it and to see people that you love struggle with it. Without institutions like CAMH innovating, we have no future. People suffering from mental illness have no future. I have no future without CAMH. CAMH single-handedly saved my life multiple times, and I owe them my life. My kids are thankful to CAMH. My husband and my family are thankful to CAMH. I have, through firsthand experience, seen how CAMH is changing my life and how CAMH gives me the hope that I need when I myself don't have that hope to go on another day.